It's actually quite nerve-wracking to see people. To see.
Assalamualaikum and a very good morning. Architect Abu Zarim, PAM Deputy President and also the Chairman of CPD Committee, PAM Council members, PAM members, PAM CPD Committee members, Secretariat staff, and also Garis Pixel, who is providing the technical support for this CPD online program. Welcome to this virtual session of PAM CPD Unlimited. 2 years ago, in November 2019, we had our first CPD Unlimited for the first time. I was invited by architect Wan Sofia, the coordinator for the CPD Unlimited 2019 program, to present a paper. Regret that I have to decline the invitation because it clashes with my another program, the ninth annual development conference in Singapore, where I was invited to present a paper together with our Minister of Housing and Local Government, YB Zuraida Kamaluddin. I was informed by architect Wan Sofia that the session in KL was well attended and there were minor issues on car parking space and room availability when we did the physical session 2 years ago. Time allocated for speakers were too short. Some couldn't finish the session before the following session starts in the same room. So initially, Architect Abu Zarim, the CPD chairman, planned to have physical CPD Unlimited program on 15 December last year. But due to the pandemic, then we have to postpone to 9th of January 2021. But again, the MCO was also extended several times, affecting our schedule. Finally, we have decided to have this session online. So today, this session will be conducted fully online due to COVID-19 pandemic and the SOP that we have to comply with. I hope this virtual session eliminates the problem that we had before. No more car parking problem, no more room availability problem. But please be prepared and tolerate with us. With this virtual session, speakers are everywhere. They are at home, in their office, and some are at PAM Center. So we are running multiple sessions concurrently. It is stretching the internet bandwidth that we have. But we have our technical team on standby. So we are experimenting this virtual CPD Unlimited for the first time. There are many things that we will learn from this session. Speaking on learning, I hope participants will learn new things from this program today. Under this pandemic and economic challenges, it is like racing. Every day we have to learn and get the new knowledge. Otherwise, we'll be left behind. We are happy to have our speakers willing to share their knowledge and new technologies with us today. I am glad that we have Architect Razin Mahmud. He will be sharing his journey, small team with big dream. And we also have Dato Architect Saiful Anwar Aziz. He will be sharing his experience as a sole proprietor exporting services overseas. And of course, our special guest, Dato Sri Engineer Zaini Ujang from Ministry of Environment and Water. He will be talking about eco shift in built environment. We also have Taufik Nazaruddin Nohayati Ahmad speaking about digital solution and Internet of Things. We also have Associate Professor Dr. Ahmad Tamizi from UMP Holding. He'll be speaking on BIM organization transformation. And we have Architect Gary Wong also talking about BIM today. And other than that, we have many more speakers on various topics. On fire safety design, we have Architect Chong Lee Seong, Engineer Hao Jiang Te. On construction contract related subjects, we have Architect Joseph Tan, Architect Lu Chi Kiong. We also have David Yek. We'll be talking about mediation and dispute resolution. We also have the topics on conservation by Mariana Issa, Mangjit Kaul, architect Rida Razak, and Ahmad Najib Arifin, and also on urban design by Associate Professor Dr. Sharifah Salwa. I will not be able to say to mention all the names, but there are many more speakers. You can check with the program. And later in my session, I will also share the finding from our survey from the government agencies, developers, contractors, and individual project owners on what do they expect from architects in providing architecture services. Recently, we have conducted a survey to get the feedback from developers, contractors, and also government agency on their expectation on architects' services. And on behalf of PAM, I would like to thank each and every one of you for being here virtually today. This is our first ever virtual CPD Unlimited program. Please give us feedback at the end of the session so that we will improve things in the future. I hope that all participants will enjoy this session and have a good interaction with the speakers. Make sure you interact with the speaker. Don't just leave your computer on, but you are not there. So enjoy the session. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.
Halo, Assalamualaikum. Halo, Assalamualaikum.
Ya, Doctor. Assalamualaikum salam.
Aduh, hai.
Okay, we are going to start shortly, okay? Because we don't have time.
Okay.
So, guys, get your slides ready, video ready. Salam. Our session okay kan?
Salam, ada recording saya kan?
Yeah, you should have. Alright. So we'll start in 1 minute. Just leave people are coming in.
Hello, here Dr. Asrul.
Morning.
Morning.
Dr. Asrul.
Ya, morning.
Boleh start.
Assalamualaikum,
Boleh start
morning.
sekarang?
Boleh dengar
We can start now, right? Okay, we start now. Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to express my greatest gratitude to Pertubuhan Arkitek Malaysia for having this session within the Committee of Housing and Urban Wellbeing under the chairmanship of Architect Nur Zakiah. So today we have a very interesting talk, and we are going to discuss about a tale of two cities. So the topic will be a tale of two cities, an observation on the urban housing and urban framework of daerah khusus Ibu Kota Jakarta and Bandaraya Kuala Lumpur. So with me here, myself, Architect Mustapha Kamal, is the moderator, and with me is Dr. Najah Md Alwi, and also Dr. Asrul Mahjuddin. So I just would like to read their CV first. So Dr. Najah Md Alwi is a senior lecturer at Universiti Malaysia, Kelantan. So Dr. Najah Md Alwi is a graduate architect, researcher, and current senior lecturer in Department of Architecture and Acoustics, University of Malaysia, Kelantan. From UiTM Shah Alam in 2004 to Bachelor Architecture in Victoria University of Wellington 2007, she further pursued an area of expertise in sustainable design in Auckland University, my old alma mater, while continuing to work as a graduate architect in multi-practice firms in Wellington and Auckland. After returning to practice Malaysia in 2012, she also trained to be a certified green building facilitator, GBIF. for Malaysia and Green Start professional in New Zealand before continuing to the UK to obtain a PhD in architecture, social science. Najah's primary focus and research motivation is on the many ways sustainability can be achieved between people and people, as well as the people and environment, particularly in cities. Okay, now she's into this architecture, urban design and planning. And the next speaker is actually Dr. Asrul Mahjuddin. I think many people from UM knows him, but I just read his bio also. Dr. Asrul Mahjuddin Rasang Aminuddin from the Department of Architecture, Faculty of Built Environment, Universiti Malaya. Senior lecturer, deputy dean, researcher, lead auditor. He has all the strings of accolades there. Dr. Asrul Mahjuddin Rasang is a senior lecturer and deputy dean, okay, and he heads the Quality Management Enhancement Center of Universiti Malaya. And also he holds a PhD in high-rise housing and sustainable design from Nottingham University, United Kingdom. Among his latest research and projects include Lembah Pantai and Kerinci housing, as well as UM Care's Waste to Health Wealth project, not wealth, health, wealth, which has won the first prize team national level together with High School Science Rembau Negeri Sembilan. Dr. Asrul actively involved in several committees in PAM and was convener for the ICON Housing 2019 Symposium successfully held in DBKL with Housing and Urban Wellbeing Committee. Okay, the format that we're going to have today is each one of them will be talking for about 20 to 25 minutes. I would like to start with Dr. Najah. So Dr. Najah, without further ado, the floor is yours. I give it to you. Dr. Najah, your session starts now.
The video played by Salam ke?
Yep.
Okay. What do I do? Share my slides now. It doesn't take that long. Thank you again, Mustapha, for introducing and moderating this session this morning. Thank you, participants, for coming in. And of course, Dr. Asrul as well. Very honored today to be part of the HUW committee to speak this morning in our live. Okay. This morning, we will be talking about the Tale of Two Cities, so the topic that we've taken today, or chosen today. Basically, a bit of computation on urban framework of DKI Jakarta and Bandaraya Kuala Lumpur. My name is Najah Md Alwi. I am a senior lecturer in architecture in University of Malaysia, Kelantan. And it is a little bit about the studies that I have been involved in the last 5 years before, 2014 to up to last year, I guess, before I graduated. And we want to talk mainly on urban living, quality of life in these two cities, how present day gentrification, urban expansion, because these two capital cities affect the citizens of everyday lives. So we want to talk about resilience, also how architects basically can get involved, or areas that we may be able to learn from just by understanding how cities and the frameworks work. And my task today is mainly talking about my observations of Jakarta. As I said before, my PhD thesis was basically focusing on one specific area of Jakarta, which is actually the green spaces, social spaces. I was drawn to Jakarta due to its high population boom and its rate of urbanization, and yet at the same time, one of the places that are lacking in green spaces. And you've got all these modern technologies coming in, but we're kind of trying to channel it towards human and connection, and what that means for the social life of the people living in the cities. But I'm not going to talk too much about my thesis really. It's just more on while I was doing this thesis, while I was interviewing people there, down from the people on the streets as well as the governance. There's a lot of aspects of the city, the complexity of it all that I actually found out. And I hope to share that with all of you today, and maybe, you know, talk about how we can also take some lessons into Jakarta, to Kuala Lumpur as well. So, sorry. I've taken this quote to start with. So one cannot make architecture without studying the conditions of life in the city. This is Aldo Rossi. He's author of The Architecture of City, and talking about how city itself is a memory of its people, associating it with the objects and places, and it's of course the collective memory. What I mean is mainly to do with Jakarta, being the capital city, and used to be, you know, Batavia, the city that was basically under the Dutch colony for over 700 years, I think. And it's got different governance that's gone since 1949, the independence, and how it's now a different city entirely due to the way the cities have changed and the people, the objects of like the streets, the canals. So we're going to see how that works from the history until what it is today. So, you know, every researcher, every paper will have a research question driving it. And so for me, we thought about like, what can the cities learn from each other for urban environments? And in the last 20 years, how it's changed, and the master planning of the city. Now we have the sustainable urban goals, agendas to get into these ways for the future, and understanding how architects in the city, which is sort of rare coming from an architecture point of view, that we really think about the city. There's an idea of the context, of course, but then how these little pieces of architecture actually makes the city itself, you know, the time differences, how it intersects, the culture, social economy. So I guess it's more of my observation mainly as an architecture background person coming into research about urban. So we'll dive into that. Okay, here I've got like the big map of Jakarta itself. And you see, we've got home of over 10 million people. The density is, as you can see, 15,000 per kilometer per square. It is actually one of the top most populated islands of Indonesia. They have about 17,508 islands, and there's 20 that's most populated, which is including Jakarta. Funnily enough, it only covers almost 700 square meters in terms of land, but the metropolitan area here on right here, when it actually includes Bekasi Regency as well as Pogo on the hill, it becomes a sort of a megapolis city that is even more dense than what you see here. It's changed names about 13 times, from Batavia to Jakarta to Jayakarta first, and then now it's known as Jakarta, from its, you know, history in different places of people governing it. It's got over 180 shopping malls in its 5 administrative divisions. So the map on the left here shows a little bit of like the administrative cities, the North Jakarta, East Jakarta, South Jakarta, West Jakarta. So this is DKI or DKI Jakarta, which is the special capital region given specific status for governance, being capital. So what it means is mainly the governor and ruling the city also has independent states, cities around it. So I think from here you can also see a little bit of the airport, which is on the Tangerang side, and the bigger region area. that covers quite a bit of traffic and citizens. And what is recently not known is actually right now it's got over 200 kilometers of rapid transit bus system. So it's been updated. Despite the fact that it's still congested, there's a lot of new things that's coming in Jakarta at the moment. So this is a picture that I took when I was in Tugu Monas. It's the oldest monument of the country. And you can see about 360 degrees of what Jakarta looks like. And this was taken in 2016 when I did my first pilot study. And you can see how much, covered space of just skyscrapers seeping all the way. But you can also see a lot of older buildings that are quite monumental and important. You know, you've got straight green space here. And of course, the pictures that I've shown down here is just a little bit of Jakarta as well. If you on the street side, you know, this is the bird's eye point of view, and you go on the street, you see a bit more of the little kampongs that go around. And Jakarta is also a city of many, many different monuments, of memorials, celebrating each of their heroes and city planners, I think. And of course, if I move a bit at the back here, all the street foods, which is Southeast Asia known, but particularly in Jakarta, it's a bit of a delight over there. And also, I think what is the bigger picture that's not quite seen here is about the duality in Jakarta. And when I mean duality is how, you know, it looks very hyper-modernized due to the buildings and the architecture of each individual buildings, but a lot of the land has different ownerships, and therefore there's also a sprawl of informality, meaning, you know, having a little bit of the street side here, street hawkers, and also slums in some areas. I think it's not too much now, but we'll get that into when we discuss on the housing. Here we go. So about the people, we've got about more than 300 different ethnicity. I'm not going to name it all in Indonesia. So the ethnic groups in Indonesia, if you can see all the 17,000 islands, small ones, just showing a little bit of where they're from. But each area also covers different indigenous groups that come over and migrate to different parts of Jakarta, to Sumatra, to find work, to get a better life. And Jakarta's motto, not Jakarta, sorry, Indonesia, Bhinneka Ika Tunggal, which means that one for all and diversity for all. And they are very, very strongly connected to each other about, you know, understanding cultures. And in each city, they also have this governance of culture. For example, like areas of Bali is specific for the Hinduism, but in Jakarta, because it's a capital, so it's more of a governmental city rather than concentrating on the other unique individualities of each one. So I think it's more of a representative of the whole. So here's a bit of a map, like a little bit of what it used to be 1945 and how it's changed to now, and mainly to do with the population that's changed. Like I said before, a lot of the surpluses of people coming into the city is already predicted, you know, that everyone's going to eventually live in the city due to better perceived quality of life, or at least better pay. And I think in comparison to these other 6 cities, I think taken from the population division in 2018. So the green graph shows what is predicted to be. And this was data from 2015. Even as you go see here, Jakarta compared to Depok, Bandung, Bekasi on Java Island itself, Jakarta shoot up quite highly in 2015. And this is predicted from, 10 million people we have right now, or back in 2015, and it will just go further up in 2030, which is not too far away from now. I guess it's just 10 years from now. The planning of the city is also reflecting this. So I think the last planning for spatial planning is actually until 2030. So they've thought ahead about what needs to be done from before. There's different phases that's been taken into consideration as they send a lot of their government servants as well as their NGOs to look into areas that need to be first prioritized. And I think one of the things that they did was onto looking at the problems that they've got. So, but before we go into the problems, I just want to go quickly into the housing trends. Like I said earlier before, we talk about the informal and formal duality of Jakarta. There's a lot of this in all cities of Asia generally, but I think it's a lot prominent in places that are highly populated because of the gaps that you can see. You see this informal planning is just basically going like wild mushrooms going around, but ironically enough, but a lot of this has to do with the way the city or the town was set up from 1700s. And that, for me, as an architect, finding it quite interesting because, we would design houses specific for type of client or a type of residential area. But I think in big cities like this, not much different from cities like in Latin America, is that the people takes itself, they design the city because of the influx of people coming around. So they shape where they find opportunities and build their own houses regardless of what the policy says. And therefore, I think this is one of the unique approaches in Jakarta because they can coexist with each other, having skyscrapers and business centers right through the middle of the town of Jalan Tamrin, and alongside, not too far, maybe just 10 kilometers or less, you'll see a lot of kampung houses. It's still in good condition, and some are pretty derelict, but the formal and informal side of things are very apparent in the city. And I've kind of collected a little bit of the types of housing that I can see, which is not much different from Kuala Lumpur, I'm guessing. So there's informal housing, which is very, you can see from the city itself, from the 13 rivers of the city. And you see people coming from wherever they come from the islands, and start building their own home. And, and then after that, we've got the kampungs. And this is an example of a kampung in Jakarta that I drove through I didn't drive, I walked through. And, seeing kids play and this become their social spaces. So these are the areas that I was looking at while I was doing my research. But I also noticed, vernacular housing, a combination of what it was influenced by the Dutch that was living in Jakarta. And we have two different sort of condominiums types. They've got, they call it rusun, either rusun, rusunami, or rusunawa. So the difference is actually just a combination of rumah susun. So either rumah susun milik or rumah susun sederhana sewa, which is lower sort of income group flats that's basically affordable for them. And a lot of them have this government funding, and you've also got the other one that's mostly for ownership. So it's a higher middle class one. And another type of housing that was available was kos-kosan, which is like a city dormitory, which is a place that I myself stayed in while I was doing this study. I stayed in Senen, which is right in the center, because I was looking at the urban parks specific to main central town. And so they've got for male and female separate. Usually it works for people who commute daily or weekly when they come in, and you can rent the room by the day, by the week, or by month, depending on your ibu or bapa that's looking after this place. And of course, in other places, the suburbs and much more elite area, you've got the whole Dutch mansions. You also still get a little bit of this sort of duplexes or townhouses. And you also have a little bit of the service apartments behind me that I was trying to show. This is more like for out-of-towners, professionals that sometimes stay here. But between these two, I think it's quite popular to rent one or the other. Of course, the kos-kosan is a lot cheaper, affordable. But I think for services, you know, this place doesn't have any food. You have to cook your own. And this one, the service apartment is more like a hotel, you know, pool, gym, things like that. But it's interesting to be able to actually see and live there for about 2-3 months to see exactly how the city works, and just really paying attention to each little facets of the city that makes the planning itself work or not work. And I think that's the ideal thing when we're doing research, is to understand that. And so what I've noticed, of course, we have urban challenges that come in Jakarta. It's quite obvious. We've got obviously the limited green space, and the study showing how from the early Jakarta years, means like after independence, it's gone less and less to almost scarcely not having any green spaces in all areas. So at the moment, I think East Jakarta and South Jakarta has probably more green spaces due to the housing trends. Is to do because the old Jakarta used to be up on the north, you see. So a lot of that has been sort of refurbished and changed into historical areas. And on the south here, there's still some parks and reserve areas that they look into. And I think the government has been trying very hard to map out properly what is their property and what is not. And that's part of the understanding of where Jakarta DKI can govern for the future. And of course, they've got this inequality of extreme poverty, as I've shown you, the informality of places. You know, having the fringes of one kampong next to Hilton Hotel and things like that. And it's overrun quietly for the poor, and the traffic congestion, of course, because of the influx being the center. Everybody comes in, commute out. And due to the density, you see these red areas here is to do with how dense these places are. And the public transportation in Jakarta at this time, this was in 2015, so it was still not thought out. But when they did the master planning, this was the things that they wanted to look into, because the coming in and coming out is through these red hot spots. It's not even counting the greater region where people do commute to come in and out. So, and of course, having this congestion, not planned, all this traffic also lead to other things because of the overpopulation traffic. We've got the flood that is, you know, the worst in the last 10 years or so, since 2007, 2012, 2014, and even now. And I think it's a sinking city. This is a map shown from BBC from 1997, the spots that's slowly going into the sea, because you've got the sea up here, shown up there. And more spots on the old city mainly, but also going to the fringe, that shows how much it has actually going down. And this is the predicted from 2050, but it might be even earlier. I think at the moment, if you look at the news, it's already 1.5 meters down since last year. So that's quite fast effect. And what is to blame for all this? Can we just blame entirely on planning? I'm not quite sure, but we can go back into early on in the history and to see a little bit of what actually Batavia was planned for. And here's a map from 1600s, and I studied this for a while to understand what it all means. You see, this was I think a German map. It was in English now. So a little bit to show of its agricultural background. And Indonesia until now, even though predominantly it's still in agriculture, so it came off as people who come to do, people here live to do rice fields. So they are all workers for agriculture. And I should move here a bit. And the source of the show here is that a lot of this landscape is no longer what you see of Jakarta or Batavia, but there's a story behind it. I think the early plans here is a famous plan that I think that's been shown over and over again, and it's about the Groot River. Right now, it's got, Jakarta has 13 rivers, but this was one of the first planned settlements in Java Island. And why this map is very famous, it's from the 1700s, but it talks specifically on this area. I can't zoom it in, but it talks about the 14 different canals, which is the colonies plan to mirror Amsterdam and to control the port city in various groups. So areas here, all the Chinese merchants, all the Arabs, all the indigenous are basically surrounding it. So they have all these forts. So what it's showing is all these chateaus of the Dutch officers where they're supposed to be, but they've been segregated from the very beginning. And this segregation of merchandise, townspeople, I think still exists until now. And because it's such a great city that it's got specific functions, a lot of it is still being uncovered now, but not fully able to do any changes, at least not significantly, in terms of how it would affect the future. So from that map before, I go into the town planning. This is in 1904 when the Dutch decided to move their city from Batavia on over here into Koningsplein, which is the first urban park in Jakarta. So the idea was because of the plan before. If I go back here, this is the map slightly turned at the edge of the sea. They've now gone down south, and it's sort of divided east and west of Jakarta. And this area is mainly mapped. This map basically shows on the satellites, or these little dots here. These are all the kampongs that has existed since 1900s. And this was mainly to do what the city does now. So the people come over, everyone from Indonesia, from all the islands, come here to get work from here. But due to the canals being flooded with not treated, and then it's got malaria, it caused typhus. So this is one of the reasons why they decided to move further in just a Dutch officer area. They wanted to do a garden city starting here. But the kampong was already surrounding all these places, because, if you work in one of these centers of Dutch officers and you're a merchant, how else are you going to go to work but not to live nearby? So this is how it all started. And moving on to this 1945 map, it shows a little bit more concrete of the separations between, the old Jakarta and the south of Jakarta. And this is where housing in the suburbs starts to kind of sprawl into as well. Like I said just now, so all the apartments, all the lavish or old buildings are mainly in the center and on the south. And I think it remains until now. So slowly as the city developed on the east and the west for more middle class, it's a lot of the structure from the beginning of Batavia to Jakarta still remains similar, with more roads and more people, of course. And here in my back is actually a showing of kampong population. So this is the latest 2018, I think, 2010, sorry. Of the slums are the black ones. And we have the modern slums on the magenta colored. And we have a little bit of like the green areas, very, very sort of solid slums, but it's just to show the different categories of sprawled informal housing that does go around Jakarta due to the starting of the plan. And the segregation goes beyond than just physical separations between the people. They also started having a mindset of, if you're from a certain area of Jakarta, and therefore you are this type and this type. And I find that really fascinating because it goes beyond than what the architecture can tell, other than the style. It's also to do with the economics and history of the place itself. So what I want to go back to today is, despite all these issues that they've got, while I was interviewing the Deputy Governor Asrul Mahjuddin, I think he had a whole plan about master planning future, regardless of who the leader was. And one of the things was to actually get a resilient Jakarta to talk about local planning agency really going out for the focus groups, getting involved with NGOs, both on a small scale kampong level up to international levels. So they've also got the UN office right in the city center. And they've got a lot of people. I think Jakarta Berkerbun is one of the most interesting collaborations between actually landscape architects and architects. Sigit Kesuma, who I also interviewed while I was there, to talk about how, because they use a lot of Twitter in Jakarta or Indonesia generally, so they can connect with anybody, even leaders, just answering their tweets and coming up with a community work, how to better the city and how to help each other as well. And now there's also Jakarta Smart City, where you see a lot of people, policing and looking into CCTVs for safety, and you can look into the website and click into the CCTV video and see what's there, who's there at different times of the days. And as for the efforts that they've done for the floods, there's a 35-kilometer wall that's a project that looks like a Garuda. I don't know if you can see it here. That's on the way at the moment, but there are talks about whether or not it will have enough time to save them. But all in all, is they're really moving forward to get into saving the city, despite the fact that in 2019 they have already picked Borneo Island as a site for new capital. But despite all that, they still worked into the transport and ways to move the city to keep the influx of people, and actually won the 2021 Sustainable Transport Award. I think they just got it last month in January. So it's very impressive things, despite all these problems that they encountered. I think the city planning, which involved a lot of different expertise to do with built environment, actually does get them forward a lot quicker than you might think. And I've taken these photos a little bit. This is from Mustapha, I think. Thank you for these. Just to show, how they've tried to influence the building planning, and this is like the bus hub that is in Senen City, and a bit of bike lanes to show traffic where to go. It looks like it's not much like it's trying to look like Copenhagen, planning all these things, coming with people walking around, and this is during COVID times. But they've done a lot of things to help the city lower the carbon, or it's physically showing effort and results as well, which I think that is interesting to witness in a short time from when the first I looked at here, 2014, and how it looks now. Okay, so to conclude, what ways can cities learn from each other in their efforts to create future urban environments? And what is our role as architects in the city now and the future? Well, there's a lot of different ways, I think, but first of all, we need to start thinking about what we want to do as built environment specialists. And do we want to keep looking at things that are the same, or doing different ways, or start looking at problems? So I think there's specific things that the architects can do, and one of it is to just start getting involved in any projects, I think, to make pave way for the future. I want to end this talk a little bit about how Jane Jacobs have actually written it, how the intricate mingling of different users and cities are not a form of chaos, although it might look like that, as I think generally, Western perception of Asia or Southeast Asia, it looks like chaotic. But on the contrary, Jane also says they represent a complex and highly developed form of order. I think if this is to do with when it's actually done correctly, and I think, from the pictures I've shown you, from a flood and all these other chaotic things that's happening, if we can actually pay forward and carefully tackle the problems, understand the priorities, definitely can represent a much more complex and developed form of order. So I think this is a good thing to remind ourselves. And that is it from me. I hope I can share more of this in the future, but we have only limited time today. Welcome any questions. Thank you very much, and until next time.
Thank you very much, Dr. Najah, for that very insightful description of Jakarta, which to me, it's in simple words called orderly chaos. So now we go to Dr. Asrul for you to present your paper. You've got 25 minutes for you to present, and later we have a discussion on the topics under the Q&A between us. Then we go to the public question and answer. Okay, Doctor?
Okay. Can everyone hear? Is it okay, my mic?
Yes, yes.
Yes, all right. Okay, thank you very much, Architect Mustapha. Thank you very much, Dr. Najah, for sharing the thoughtful of Jakarta, a city that I think I'm gonna miss visiting. Okay, my presentation today. Let me, oops. A tale of two cities. Yeah, oops, sorry. Yep. Just a glitch of the, what's called this technical, really in the morning. From the land of bakso to the land of teh tarik, from the land of es teler to the land of mi kari. I'm sure everyone has seen this poster, maybe younger people. Yeah, in Ada Apa Dengan Cinta. This is a tale between the rich guy called Rangga and the poor, sorry, the rich girl of Cinta and the poor guy of Rangga. So somehow they will meet in the middle. Yeah, this movie is about 20 years ago. Technically, I must admit I watched it twice with my wife. Yeah, and this is favela. Sao Paulo. Please capture this inside your head, inside everybody's mind. Favela Sao Paulo is It's a place where the one on left side don't have, the one on the right side have almost everything. As a matter of fact, you can see the balcony has a swimming pool, not enough the pool outside. Yeah, and the one on the left, quite poor and perhaps struggling to get a proper sanitation, let alone water. Okay, you have seen this quite a number of times. Postcard scenery. Yeah, on the right side is Monas, to commemorate the independence and the declaration of independence of Indonesia. This is right in Jakarta. Well, we have our statue to celebrate the idea of we fight for our freedom. On the left, the Malaysian one is made of bronze, and the right, the Indonesian one made of solid gold. Yeah, so much about rich and poor. Yeah? And obviously, we have also becak. Yeah, and the left side, we have becak in tricycle or bicycle. You use it in KL, but in Indonesia, people use becak and tricycle or bicycle technically to survive. Well, in Malaysia, it's more of a glamour life. Go around the city, have a healthy living. On the right hand side, they try to make ends meet. Yeah? All right, so everybody love food. I hope everyone has taken their breakfast. Yeah, it's quite tempting. Yeah, and on the left hand side, we have a lot of menu from Indonesia, from the city of Jakarta. Got lots of restaurants, nice one. That's what I miss about Jakarta. Perhaps one city has variety, and obviously, well, we have our chef of variety of food. Our roti canai kosong, roti canai sardin. Roti telur and what else? Roti bomb. Yeah. Well, they have different names in Indonesia. I guess 9 menus can beat all the 12 menus or 14 menus on the left. Well, there's so much about the tale of between the city of Jakarta and the city of Kuala Lumpur. Nevertheless. Okay, let's bring you, our perspective for tomorrow. We have our perspective of going forward. The nation is going to become within the G9 developed country, and we have our famous rebadge Proton Saga that is way back in the 80s. Yeah, one of the most famous car has been remade so many times. Yeah, and Indonesia, well, they want to move also as a developed country, but it's a different way. They didn't rebadge that plane. They technically build the plane. They build the plane. It's called N250, yeah, under B.J. Habibie. B.J. Habibie says that, give me the best 200 engineers, I'll give you a plane. Yeah, so that's how he confident is. Mind you, he's the president who can speak a few languages. But now he's passed away already, the late B.J. Habibie. So the plane is being used technically for communities to communicate or to be close to each other within the island. We have our Proton Saga to go around within the kampung and the bandar. Okay, perspective of the city. Jakarta is quite close to the sea. Well, Kuala Lumpur is not that close. Jakarta has greenery. Kuala Lumpur also has greenery. Jakarta has high-rise. Kuala Lumpur also has high-rise. Jakarta housing, we also have housing. Jakarta has a poor housing. We also have poor housing. Jakarta has slum. We also have slum. So Jakarta has beggars. We also have beggars. So everything also we have. What they don't have, we also have. Yeah, but what we don't have is the 250 million people. What we don't have in the city, Kuala Lumpur is 15 million. Or where we have 1.5 million. During daytime, it will be more, obviously, because of foreign workers. Yeah, but nevertheless, that's Jakarta and Kuala Lumpur in perspective. So that's bring us downwards toward housing in Malaysia. Yeah, that's where our research. Oh, by the way, I'm Asrul Mahjuddin from Universiti Malaya, Fakulty Alam Bina, Department of Architecture, SUPRI. Yeah, we call it. Our research unit called SUPRI, not SUPRI, but SUPRI. But you can just Google it. Yeah, just Google my name and search for Supri. All right. So do you think Indonesia and Jakarta has nice cewek? We also have nice people, smiley people. And we always celebrate, you know, independence, celebrate Hari Raya. You know, we just celebrate Chinese New Year, although closed door most of the time, yeah, and due to the pandemic. So in New Straits Times in 2017, August 28th, the big Malaysia, a country built of hope and sacrifices. I wonder which one is bigger, the hope bigger or sacrifices bigger? There's something else to debate. I think right now we sacrifice more than we hope, or we hope more than we sacrifice. I have no idea. Okay, this is a perspective of our public housing. We got a lot of this PPR. The first idea of public housing, housing for the poor, start off from the first Malaysian plan. So our research area, technically our area between Kerinci and Lembah Pantai. Yeah, why is that? Because our research area, because Mesti Melayu has this idea of we support the community, and obviously the closest community is Lembah Pantai and Kerinci. So if UM will be in Kelantan or Kota Baru, then I'll give you a picture of Kelantan and Kota Baru. So the title here, housing for the poor or poor housing. Yeah, I'll leave it to you later towards the end of the slide. So social or economic ego. Yeah, in sustainability, there's always this social, economy, and environmental. Just pick up the two, social, economic, ego. Or is it ego within the social and economy? Yeah, those who have and who don't have. Yeah, those who have LV and those just have Uniqlo. Hey, Uniqlo is still expensive. All right, if you go to one of these public housing, well, this is nicer one. You can see a bit cleaner lift lobby. You can see a nicer mural, and obviously there's a lot of advertisement. Yeah, and then Selamat Datang, Block 102. Yeah, everything is nice. Yeah, and then we have a motorbike. I mean, if they can park the motorbike next to the lift door, they will park the motorbike next to the lift door. I just wonder. So much about our society. Don't ask me whether the lift working or not, but I didn't try. I used the staircase. Yeah, kind of, part of the research work is to exercise, I guess. Community and collective integration. Do we ever question this in the greater city of Kuala Lumpur? Yeah, 1 in the morning, and then if you go for your teh tarik roti canai, remember teh tarik roti canai? Yeah, the 9 different foods. Yeah. Okay. Pictures like this in newspaper, gotong royong, we always try to inculcate for the youngsters, but in Indonesia, kind of, automatically, then they work together. Doesn't have to be trained, I guess. Not say that we are not trained in the city to work gotong royong, we gotong and we royong in the city, especially during jam. We gotong royong. Everybody goes into one street and gotong royong the traffic jam. Yes, we have a very famous macet, but over here the picture I'm expressing here is that whether this is part and parcel of the society we bring into the city. Housing as financial investment or social investment, my bet is that it's always been financial investment. Yeah. So I just give you the cartoon, the picture on the right-hand side. They both come from the supermarket. It's not Asda, it's not Tesco, it's not Sainsbury, but I guess maybe one of the famous supermarket. One comes out from the supermarket, has tons of things inside the trolley. Once it's outside the supermarket, got tons of things from the dumpster. Yeah, and are we a society? We have T20, M40, B40. The irony is that it's alphabetical order, and the B, the M, and the T in it. And the last one is the top tier. The earlier one is the bottom tier. So are we within the structure of feeding the rich? Mind you, next month we're going to fill up our LHDN form. Lembaga Hasil Cukai form. So is that our economic structure is in a way, pushing so much into, feeding up the rich. Yeah, and there's always a tax break for the poor. I think that's the reason the poor get a lot of helps. That's why they can afford a bowl and share it with the rich. Yeah, the only missing picture here on the left is the M40. So I'm not sure whether how many of you got married or to the extent of before you kahwin, some of your in-law or maybe akan datang punya in-law lah, sudah ada rumah ke? Sudah beli rumah ke? Tinggal mana? They must that is become a must. Nobody say that. Boleh support ke saya punya daughter? But nevertheless, house is always one of the key things your future in-law, not future outlaw, future in-law will ask. Yeah, real estate will ask you location. Never tell you community. Neighbor, nice neighbor. They will tell you neighbor if you are somewhere in Kenny Hill. Oh, nice neighbor. Yeah. And once in a while, you get bombarded with a nice brochure, with empty swimming pool and a couple of palm trees, and say that you are living in the tropical paradise by the city center, and the swimming pool up there somewhere on the 10th floor. Okay, I'll bring you back to our research area. As I mentioned earlier, we do a lot on Kerinci and Kampung Baru. It's not Kerinci and Pantai Dalam. There's two pictures different way apart. I just wonder later after I pencen, 2031, how it's gonna look like. So we used to have a big, huge sewage treatment plant, next to NPE. Yeah, and the smell is tremendous for those people who are on the other side. There's two sides of what's called that the PPR or the housing scheme. I guess they get used to it. Yeah, and now it has been turned into a park, green park, so-called, by either DKI or sewage treatment plant companies, and supposed to turn it to green park. But unfortunately, access is difficult. But take a look on the skyline at the back there. How much different it is within the 10 years. Yeah, so dense. Oh, by the way, maybe 2010, a bit of smoke. Yeah. Okay, this is a bit of cartoon. What I'm trying to put here is a message between, these kids, where do they have in common? They have something they share in common. It's not economy. They share in common what is called school. I think the kid miss school so much. I think it could have, our community could have started in school. Whether you rich or you poor, you end up in schools, isn't it? I mean, the rich, the super have, obviously, were homeschooling, but that's not healthy. Okay, remember favela? I told you to remember favela. Oops, supposed to be a capital F, capital F, favela, in Sao Paulo. Kampung Baru voters unhappy with foreign presence. This is from Free Malaysia Today, online portal. Yeah, so one side divided by highway, favela is divided by wall. Yeah, so one side is still a kampung, the other side is a new city. Yeah. So I take you back again to the housing, the public housing. Yeah, anybody notice any different? Yeah, the TNB substation is there on the bottom right. Both has TNB substation. The building is there. Yeah, it's a bit yellowish. Yeah. The only difference is that there's a lot of cars. So many cars, it's barely you are able to go around. And I think the Malaysian economy is because we have our own proton per next. We highly dependent on the production of car to support the economy. We support the economy, or the economy support the car, or the car support the economy, or vice versa. I have no idea. But when we did our statistic, is that each household has about 1.5 to 1.6 cars in terms of bicycle, motorbike. Each household almost a fair share. So that means out of 10 units, from this 10 units, they produce they have 15 or 16 cars. Yeah. So for that reason, I think they can't help it. They park everywhere. So housing is a product of finance, like a gold, like a stock market. As I give it to you earlier, I bet is that it's more of a finance rather than a social investment. So the difference between this what's called that picture, one taken 2010, one taken 2021. That guy, the yellow t-shirt, is trying to clean from the awning. Yeah, I think they gave up already somewhere along the years between 2010 and 2021. Cannot be cleaned. The reason why that awning exists is that is to prevent people from throwing stuff. Yeah, and mind you, 2 years back, a boy got killed in one of those PPR developments. Somebody threw a chair. You know, I mean, we find it quite alarming. They throw cigarette butts. This is a chair, you know. I mean, I don't mind they throw gold coins, but this, you know, it's just unbelievable. But do you want to blame the community here? Who makes this community? It's us, isn't it? Housing as shelter or shelter as housing, I just wonder. So we always like to house the poor. I mean, it's quite our responsibility. Are we a social country? We are a democratic country, obviously. We try to help as much as possible and the poor. They may not have enough opportunity, nevertheless. But I give you this interesting picture, you know, and this is the orang gila. You call it orang gila, orang tak siuman lah. You know? We encountered this when we were going around our research area. Yeah, the backdrop there, keluarga bahagia. You know, this tidak kurang siuman person technically singing very happy. Probably inside his head is that he's living within that utopian picture within the mural, keluarga bahagia, husband and wife with kids. Maybe he was a husband long time ago, but for sure he's a kid from one family, you know. Very nice picture, isn't it? The backdrop from this orang siuman, yeah? But nobody touch him and he doesn't touch anyone. You know, nice glowy sun, nice glowy sunflower, green tree, you know. I think maybe whoever painted that has a mind of within the Elysium. Okay, back in 2010, another part of the PPR. Any difference? Yes, cars. But I can tell you that the left-hand side, there's a pedestrian. You know, when I tried to take this picture again a couple of days ago, just for this talk, is that can't go through the pedestrian anymore. You know, the pedestrian has been used where all the gerai and all the hawkers has been built up to support. I'll tell you later what happened to the gerai or the hawkers. So, 50K pigeon hole or 500K hole of for the pigeon, or half 1 million, 100K pigeon hole or 1 million hole for the pigeon. Obviously, the rich pigeon, you know. So we tend to avoid community interaction. We are quite occupied with shopping, online shopping, you know, trendy stuff. You know, one can't blame you for the younger generation. You've been bombarded with a lot of advertisement. Yeah. Housing as an expression of community life, or just housing expression of social standing or an ego standing. This is one thing I like to tell you a story. There's always a lot of kids. Many years when it was started, there are plenty of kids. The family quite confidently, you know, go around, you know, get the kids to play, and then after a couple of years, I come back. Is it C19 effect? You know, C19 COVID-19 effect. Nobody, people there anymore. No more kids, or is it gangsterism? We found out that, you know, there's a lot of crime going around. So which one? Sometimes the parent will perhaps be wondering which one was more harmful, you know, COVID-19 or gangsterism. At least COVID-19 has vaccine. Gangsterism, I wonder, has vaccine or not. Yeah, if there is a vaccine, you know, please let us know. You know, who knows? Somebody can win a Nobel Prize for gangsterism, vaccine for gangsterism. Yeah, kids would love to draw inside their imagination, happy, orang kurang upaya, OKU, old people, all kind of professional. Yeah, great, fine. Is that happening to our city? Is that happening to Kuala Lumpur? Is that happening to Jakarta? From the bird eye view is nice, isn't it? Wow, nice picture. The moment you land and get out from the immigration, it's a totally different story other than the heat and the dust. The hustle bustle of city life. Okay, remember talking about hawkers. Yeah, 2010. Those people who live within the PPR try to survive, so they have a make-do structure, temporary structure. Somehow in 2021, they have almost a permanent building. The only good thing is that at least they observe uniform building bylaw, their own uniform building bylaw, tidak melebihi longkang. Yeah, but the thing is that when we go around and research this, is that some of this owner actually does not stay there. Somebody far away, they occupy the green spaces and do their businesses. I mean, on the fair share in 2010.
Asrul, another 2 more minutes. 2 minutes.
2 more minutes, huh?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Yeah, that's not fair to me. Okay. All right. Social and racial harmony. Yeah, we like this. Chinese New Year, Hari Raya, Deepavali. Nice costume, nice ampau, green ampau. For Hari Raya, red ampau. For Chinese New Year, blue ampau for Deepavali. Things like that. I don't know whether we got blue ampau for Deepavali or not. I just invented today. Yeah. So we are peaceful. There's a big, huge demonstration in Jakarta. Mind you, Dr. Najah, a couple of months ago. Tak cukup kerja, tak ada kerja. They want to. Well, everything can be protest back in Indonesia, I guess. But we protest nicely over the newspaper. We put it there nicely. What we like, we don't like. So, question: you should ask about being a human community or city for community. I tell you, if it is a human community, then it would be great. If it is city community, you can never be a human community, isn't it? If you're a human community, you can always be a city community. Well, it's up to you guys to be big. Okay, are we ready for tomorrow? Our cities, this is even a bigger spectrum. Look at our skyline. Yeah, I'm not sure whether you ever visited this area part of the Pantai Dalam and Kerinci. So I give you this cartoon. In 1985, 500,000 could buy you a house. Fast forward 20 years later, just a small small structure. I think in 2025, 2035, I do not know. Maybe DIY. Build your own house or build your own hut. All right. It's almost the end. Architect Mus. I bring you back again this story. Yeah. I told you I love this story. There's Rangga on the right-hand side, and there's Cinta. So they communicate. See you in KL or in Jakarta. So which one you guys like? You want to see us in Jakarta or see us in KL? So ada apa dengan KL? Ada apa dengan Kuala Lumpur? Is that compared to Jakarta? Oh, we have a lot. As a matter of fact, we have air Bandung and mi Bandung. Even Jakarta in Bandung also don't have. Yeah, we have mi Jawa and air Asam Jawa. Not even Jakarta has. That's how fantastic Kuala Lumpur. Yeah. With that, thank you so much. I'm sorry if it is taken a bit long time. Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Asrul. That's I love your witty style of presentation. That's why I like you to be on my session, because that creates the ambiguity of the problem, but you direct the issue. And I think both Dr. Najah and Dr. Asrul has actually pointed out things that we seem to take it for granted, but actually it is actually reality. And I think this reality is the one that I would like to touch on, and just to take upon Dr. Najah before we go to the public questions. The reality is, yes, Jakarta is 3 meters below sea level forever. So that's why they're always fighting to have their 5,000 pumps working for them during the rainy season until now. So they got to pump the water from the land to the sea. So that's one reality. And they still becomes the biggest kampung in city, or rather the biggest city of kampung. And whereas in Kuala Lumpur, we also have the river, but we actually make the river as our backyard. And now only we start to make it a front yard through the River of Life. But I'm not sure whether the money spent is actually good. And I think architects should actually own it up to actually think of how to actually resolve it. Like what Dr. Najah was saying, we need to be at the forefront, that means to say at the community level, or be in touch with that, so to deal with these two questions. And also where Dr. Asrul was talking about housing, and also Dr. Najah talked about housing as well. But in Jakarta, they allow all kinds of housing. So there is no, how should I say, formal only, but there is also informal, which I think where Kampung Baru is at a dilemma now, we need to look at it very, very closely. So one question to each of you before the public question. I saw one question there in the public, which is very pertinent, is Dr. Najah, how your research in Jakarta can be used in Kuala Lumpur almost immediately. Which ones would you like to adopt almost immediately? Then we can tell DBKL this is probably the best.
That's a big question, actually. I think it's mostly things that we already have. First of all, like attitude, or, you know, we have a lot of research done for Kuala Lumpur just as much. But I think with Jakarta specifically is the governance, you know, because they've seen this forefront from the last 5-6 years before, you know, regardless of who the politicians are. And they actually bring forward whatever plans that was before. And I think it's just getting, rather than the research being discarded in something new and then just renaming it, it's actually just using that, what we've got already in the, you know, past 10 years. It's the same stuff that researchers and universities as well as practitioners know, problems in practice, problems in that's being forward by the people, like the public, and actually start putting those plans into action. And not just rebranding it over and over again. I think that's one thing.
Yeah. Okay, Dr. Asrul, your take. How with your very witty posters and if during the Nazi time it's actually propaganda. So how would you want to actually take the bull by its horns? Which area would you like to tackle almost immediately and do it with the will?
All right. Oh, wow, that's a tough one.
I give you 2.5 minutes to answer because I've got a question from the public here.
Yeah, okay. Okay. The thing is that, you know, whether a politician or has the will or not, whether, you know, you want to have a career in politics, or your politics is a career. So if you want to have career in politics, then you have to go down and help the people. One of the key things that I found out that I think we are quite very sure, you know, it's just too overly crowded, the PPR, you know. There's always this Danbois theory, isn't it? You can always go about 150, the most maximum number of people. So 150 is technically, if you divide it by 5, that's what? 15? Huh? 20? 25. 30, sorry. 30 family, like, you know, 30 family to a block. You know. You can't have 17 floors and each floor has the 14 units, and 17 times 14 units. Imagine that, a couple of hundred of family crammed within that floor, you know. And I think also, you know, bring back the idea of engaging the people who's going to live there. You know, don't just take it for granted. Oh, I'm the designer, I'm the planner, I know what to give them, what to do. You know, these are a group of people within the Maslow hierarchy theory. They just want to survive, and their basic thing is that they want feel secure for their family and for their kids. You know, it's nothing to do with LV or coach. You know, they just want basic stuff. They understand their level. You know? So, if possible, if there is authorities here, you know, do engage the society. You know, do engage them in the focus group. They are looking forward for that. Okay.
Yeah. That's what they do a lot in Jakarta, what I actually take part in to actually see, because I didn't know if that happened. And I think they actually went out. There's so many people actually just being from Ketua Kampung to bring everyone in, talk about these things.
In fact, I think one of the things that I found out when I was doing the research also in 2016, because they invited me to do and chart out their Resilience Jakarta. In 2016, I presented the thing. What they would like to hear is what are the positive aspects. Over here, with the moment that we give any positive aspect, the problem is we cannot get it through to them. It's still back to the business as usual thing. So one of the things that they learn is the river now has become their most important backbone, and they are starting to clean up the river, and they got a lot of 300 ruang public, which is actually ruang terbuka, but children friendly. That means to say that they have actually created under the ad hoc time.
Taman Ramah Anak,
yes. So they actually created these parks with also kindergartens there, so that children are actually familiar. And I think they saw the idea that children is very, very crucial. So the contextualism of Jakarta and contextualism of Kuala Lumpur, I think is at question now, because we are looking at the Western answers for a problem which is very Asian. And I think we as architects here, and I think both of you actually, how should I say, tore out all the problems and issues that we need to look at our own self first in order to solve that problem. And the urban fabric of a Western country and a urban fabric of an Asian country is very, very different. So I think I take one question here. Do we have here? So I would like to have Dr. Najah and also Asrul to reply to this, right? It's from Muhammad Khairuddin Muhammad. Yeah? How do urban city tackle coexisting or integrate as part of a city with the existing city graveyard, especially in KL, Kampung Baru, and then there's also Casablanca in Jakarta. So how do they actually deal with that? Because in Jakarta, they've got Casablanca, so romantic name, but it's actually a lot of graveyard over there. So Najah first, because to take the Jakarta instance.
Actually, I think it's not just in Jakarta. It is a big problem. It's a recognized problem. I think the negotiation of land use in Jakarta, as much as I know, because even their park and recreation pun actually normally dalam taman kan, but it's actually it's parks and cemeteries. So it's like this negotiation between the two, which is more important. So when I got there, I was quite surprised as well. But these are things, they call it sengketa tanah. So it's to do with the rituals that they do over there as well, because it's so sensitive and people do get quite, how do I say, provocated lah. Because whenever, there's so many diversity of ways to deal with mayat, or the bodies that's in cemetery. So I think for now they try to negotiate some lands that can be reused for parks, but then it's not always tak diterima sangat lah sebenarnya, because kalau unless you are in Buddhism or you're different ways of actually dealing with the bodies and the whole idea of respecting the spirits. So it's quite polemic. I don't think there's an actual answer straight away, but they have put them into facilities dalam development for the future to say how long will it take for the body to disintegrate, or at least spiritually acceptable, before they can actually move forward. So it's still in the future, but this is a problem everywhere. I think in the UK, in India, because they have all these surplus of people and not enough land. So I think it's something that we can also talk about more, possibly.
And I was told my friends in Singapore, the bodies in Singapore, they actually they put it one on top of the other in verticality, something like that. So,
yeah. But that's the thing, it goes social issue, kan?
Okay, Dr. Asrul, your take. Okay, maybe Kampung Baru Cemetery, how if the sample that you chose, Lembah Pantai, where this is actually the lowest land in KL, where they use it as a sewer. So how do you actually want this negotiation to be? Forget about the sewer, put somewhere else, or How?
Okay, first of all, regarding graveyard lah, ni lah stigma, the problem with our society. The moment graveyard kubur je, hantu pocong Pontianak Jembalang. You know the problem is that the hantu pocong Jembalang is outside the graveyard, it's not inside the graveyard. You don't call gangster hantu pocong Jembalang, you don't call bullies hantu pocong Jembalang, but you just inside your imagination, you call that hantu pocong Jembalang. I mean, graveyard is technically a place where we try to respect those people who pass their times. But nevertheless, what Putrajaya did for Precinct 20 is something like they want a park in which reflect back to those who are living. But nevertheless, the problem is that the location is just too far off. I think if they treat it in such a way, it's part and parcel of a green park, a green lung, that would be great. I mean, the whole idea of, like, I've given you a picture of how the big, huge open sewage treatment plant being taken out, and they have a different kind of treatment and change it to a green park. That's great, good. But why do you lock it up? Why does not allow? I don't understand. The moment they have green park, you lock it up. The moment you have nice things, nice park, you lock it up. Or is it the park is the problem, or our society is a problem? So once in a while we got to engage our society in such way, in a healthy way. The top people always think that they know best what is great for the one below. I think Architect Mus, you spot it on. I think one of our research has pointed out. We keep on putting up Western theories and formula to pin in our ideas. In Europe, in Malaysia, in the States, they abolished already high-rise housing. Yeah, Great Ego is the classic one. 10 years after they build, they just demolish it. Red bricks housing in Scotland is one another classic example. They just demolish it. We can't. Yeah, I think coming back again is that society got to reflect, ambil cermin, tengok muka sendiri, tengok macam mana. Especially those who are in the political side who makes policy lah. I mean, there's no way immediately can be answered.
Okay, coming to your question, this one where anonymous attendee here, talking about the leadership, right? So what can architect do to shape the city or housing, whereas the decision maker is almost solely in the hand of city administrator, politician, and sometimes could be a junior officer making big impact? Now I start with Dr. Asrul. But yeah, please be short and sweet because I got two more questions here because I would like to cover a lot of public questions for both of you. Okay, thank you.
Okay, like this, architect, Mr. Anonymous, yeah. I had a job last time. Just tell you a story. How I got a job to do a bungalow, and I thought that I wanted to do this job. Has this idea. But this owner has a specific instruction. It had to have a Roman column. It had to have these, different decoration. And I said, no, it's just out of context. You mau kerja kah? You tak mau kerja? I'm sorry, this is not the way I do my work. So coming back to this, that whether the professional has the willingness or not, cohesively, okay. So I don't want jobs from Perubahan Negara, you are occupying public green land, or will there be, I'll do it for you lah, never mind, others don't want to do, I'll do it for you lah,
Okay, one last question here. I think Najah can answer this one. Could planning guidelines and rules be more inclusive, appreciative of existing fabric of our Asian cities rather than aim is to put an end to the disorder?
Wow, that's
I think this is really what you did in your study. So I need you to give it in 2 minutes because I need to wrap up short while.
Okay. Of course, definitely. I would think that it's one of the things that's being pushed forward generally everywhere around the world for Ahmad Najmi. SDG plans is all about inclusivity for every single person because you don't want to leave anyone behind. We either go forward together or we don't go forward at all. That's the whole point of it. So with our cities, that's why we call international people coming in. But what the biggest discovery for me myself as well while I was doing the PhD studies, because it's a long study again, and I was also had supervisors that was never tak pernah datang pun Indonesia, and so have no clue what I was talking about. So I think it's more importantly to highlight, actually we have different systems. We have pre-colonial, we have colonial, we have post-colonial. So all these aspects of history, we know it. But the thing is, we need to find our voices to somehow channel it into these platforms that we can actually go forward. Rather than macam, yelah tinggal jadi macam taking, like I took Jane Jacobs punya expressions, but it's more of a way to give me a bit of voice as well, and then finding my own voice to find ways to actually get into these guidelines and rules. I think everyone should be able to do that, no matter where you are, whether you're a professional or because you live in the city as well. So that's my thing.
Okay. Before I end this session, Dr. Asrul, in 10 words, what would you like to have this participants take away as a solution of the tale of two cities? Apa ada pada Kuala Lumpur, apa ada pada Jakarta, or apa ada pada Cinta?
Ada apa dengan community? Bring back the community into the discussion table, not the other side of the table.
Najah, Dr. Najah, 10 words.
I'm going to take something from your resilient lecture from before a little bit. Three words je lah. Three words je. It's about surviving, it's about adapting, and it's about growing. So we all have tendencies to do this. So if we survive it, we need to adapt, and then we need to grow.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, I think with those 20 words from both of them, I think the city, whether it's Jakarta or Kuala Lumpur, they have their own genus loci. But whatever it is, we need to actually address it. And I think what Najah has shown that even though they got all those problems, they managed to become having the world's best sustainable transportation. They managed to do a lot of resilient. They are in the resilient group. Kuala Lumpur is not in there. So what I'm trying to, in short, is trying to close here is, remember the story about the tortoise and the rabbits? We used to be the rabbits. Now the tortoise has slowly become and overtook us in one way or the other, whether small or big, but it is an accumulative race, and I think it's a question of marathon, and I think you need to have that endurance, and you must have that ability to create and also recreate. And I think we need to answer those questions in resiliently, especially during this COVID-19 times, where things are actually moving and changing almost every hour. So dear participants, thank you very much for your indulgence for this 1.5 hours with these two very remarkable young architect speakers here, talking about two different cities, but having almost similar but different kind of problem approaches. And I think that would actually entice us to think of us as architects to move forward under this new urban. And the post-pandemic will be a time of challenge. And I think with that, I would like to actually congratulate all of you for the session. And don't forget all your passcodes. And also, I hope I've answered all the questions that's put out of the box as well. And hope you all have a good Saturday morning and Saturday afternoon. There are other more stories from the other channels. There are almost 40 channels throughout the whole day. So with that, I would like to, I'm Architect Mustapha Kamal signing off from this first talk at 9 o'clock under the CPT Unlimited for the Housing and Urban Wellbeing Committee. So thank you, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Dr.
Asrul, thank you, Dr. Najah, thank you, Salam from Garis Pixel, and also thank you, Shafi from PEM. So bye-bye you all, and have a great day.
Yeah. Jumpa lagi ya.
Jumpa lagi.
Ya, kapan-kapan nanti kita jumpa.
Makasih semua ya.
Makasih. Ya, terima kasih. Bye.